Welcome. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us tonight on Sunday. This is our B3 Professionals call, the B3 Pros. I want to welcome our guests. We've got new people that have just recently got started in their BFR journey. Tonight, we're going to share with you an interesting topic on BFR, and that topic is going to be the anabolic effect of BFR. Before we get started, all of us on the call are starting to see and hear about BFR. It is coming. As a health and fitness professional, this is an opportunity for you to be out front, to be part of the team that's leading the way in scientific breakthrough of BFR. 5 to 6 years ago, when I got started in sharing this with other fitness and health professionals, we did not have the close to 50,000 people and hundreds of health and fitness pros and all the athletes that we have now. But today's a different day. This is coming fast. And as a health and fitness pro, you're going to want to educate yourself. Look at the teams and organizations that are using B3 bands, professional teams, certification boards, NASM personal training. And one of the things that we do that is unique is we are building a exclusive group of B3 pros. Now, when you join B3, when you get the bands, and I hope you do, you're going to have access to all of the information and support services. But we have an exclusive group that's growing called the B3 Pros. And hopefully one day you'll be invited into this group. You'll always be welcome on the calls. The purpose of the group is, first of all, for us as health professionals to be the fittest and healthiest version of ourselves, and then to serve. To better serve our clients, patient, and community, to advance BFR. And that's really what B3 Sciences is doing. In the BFR industry, I don't believe any other company is advancing the fitness industry and the healthcare community like we are. One of the things that we do so well is we collaborate together as professionals to share what we're seeing and what we're learning. And you're going to hear that tonight from people like Dr. 𝐊𝐵𝐵𝗲𝐀, Scott Corso, physical therapist, Dr. Ken Otto, and Janine Grohl. And we're building lifelong relationships within the team. And if you're interested, this is an awesome way for you to have a BFR business and strengthen your financial independence. I want to welcome 6 new members to the B3 Pros. Again, if you're a health or fitness pro, once you're involved in B3, and if you get certified, it's a good chance we're going to invite you into this group. I want to welcome 2 new chiropractors, Dr. Michael Lee, Dr. Patrick Gorman, a golf fitness professional, the Vegas golf coach, Gaylord Rose, lifelong fitness professional, Larry Individualia, gym owner, trainer, and fitness professional, Janine Grohl, also gym owner, trainer, fitness professional, Ashley Selman. So congratulations to these 6 new B3 pros. Tonight, we're going to talk about the anabolic response to BFR. We're going to talk about turning the body's build and burn system on, which is very difficult for most people. The average person exercising rarely can access elevated growth hormone, and in the physical therapy world, it's also very difficult to turn on this anabolic response, but not anymore with BFR. If you're new to BFR, it's very simple. BFR is going to reduce oxygen flow. It's going to do that by using patented flexible bands on the arms and legs, not rigid bands. These bands are flexible. They don't require Doppler. They're being used, as you saw, by teams all across the country. Now, why would we want to reduce oxygen flow? Because it's going to allow us to achieve fatigue or reach fatigue in our clients and our patients and our athletes with dramatically less load and time. And this deeper fatigue is what turns on this anabolic response and gets results. If you were to look at oxygen flow, if you were to use an infrared thermography tool or measure other ways of oxygen, here's what you'd see. Normal exercise versus BFR. BFR puts a greater demand on oxygen, and then it creates deeper hypoxia. Although it's using less load and less time, this deeper hypoxia is what turns on the anabolic signal in the body, and we call it the burn. But studies have proven that when you build up lactic acid in the muscles, This turns on the anabolic signal. Now, we talk about this a lot in B3. Heavy weights or traditional weightlifting is a tool to produce lactic acid. It's the circulating lactate from this weightlifting that turns on the anabolic signal. It's not the weights, it's not the micro tearing. BFR is now a different pathway to create this same lactic acid. Here's a study of middle-aged men, and you can apply this to probably just about all of your clientele, especially in rehab. Typically, people doing exercise see small changes in growth hormone. In this study, when BFR was used with elastic bands, there was a 25 times greater increase in growth hormone. This is the anabolic effect. As professionals, you're going to be turning on surges of growth hormone that most of your clients probably haven't seen since their athletic days. Whether you're doing physical therapy, rehab, in clinic, home exercise, team exercise, or working with athletes, you turn on elevated growth hormone, and all of us know that that anabolic effect can have a dramatic improvement in what we're treating. This growth hormone then triggers IGF-1. Very few people that we see as health and fitness professionals are operating on elevated IGF-1 because they cannot turn on this anabolic signal. But when you do, look what it does. It upregulates increased testosterone. It regulates blood sugar and metabolism. Obviously, physical benefits of increasing lean muscle and decreasing fat. But the health effects are substantial. Regenerative effect on nerves, protects the brain, strengthens ligaments and tendons. And all of this can be achieved in dramatically less time. The average person working out with B3 bands doing BFR is exercising in 10 minutes a day. This looks like 5 minutes of an upper body exercise, 5 minutes of a lower body. In rehab, it's as simple as doing 5 to 10 minutes of rehab. Now, we'll teach you the different time frames. You can use B3 BFR bands up to 20 minutes. You can use them as little as 1 to 2 minutes. We'll teach you a formula as a professional on how many minutes you want to put people in BFR bands. Let's go back to why is this so prevalent at creating the anabolic effect? It's the increase in blood lactate. Now, we all know the slang term lactic acid, but lactic acid is really a byproduct of fast twitch muscles. Fast twitch muscles using glycogen creates circulating lactate, which is a neuropeptide. And again, science has shown us that whether we're doing traditional heavy weight training or BFR, the trigger for these changes in the body is the circulating lactate. Recently, I started measuring blood lactate to prove this, and you'll be learning more about this as a health and fitness professional if you'd like to measure blood lactate. But here is 3 recent people that I measured their blood lactate. Now, why are we doing this? Because we want to see, does BFR create the burn and subsequently elevate lactate in the blood, which turns on growth hormone? And blood lactate typically is around 8.0 to 1.2 on a score on the blood lactate meter. So we know a baseline of 1. We're looking to increase blood lactate 200 to 300% or higher. If we are doing that, we are turning on the anabolic signal. Here's Tammy, 340% increase in blood lactate after a short 5 to 10 minute workout. Sarah, 630% increase in blood lactate. And here's Chris Grohl, 1,000% increase in blood lactate. This is after doing 5 to 10 minutes of light BFR exercise. And when this happens and we turn on the anabolic signal, it goes beyond muscle, fat burn, toning, and strength, which are all significant benefits. It has a systemic effect, which means it's going to impact joints, tendons, nerves, heart, blood sugar, bone, brain, vein, immune. And there's science and studies on all of this. Well, tonight, I want you to hear from a practicing physical therapist, Scott Corso. And one of the things Scott has been doing in addition to implementing this in his practice is he has been doing research on this blood lactate and what studies are showing us. So first of all, Scott, welcome tonight to sharing this with the other professionals. I know first and foremost, you use the B3 bands. You've been using them for a while, and not only have you used them with yourself and in your practice, but you've been seeing some interesting information that lactic acid, which once was thought, right, Scott, is maybe we don't want lactic acid to circulating to. This is one of the most powerful signals in the body to turning on, the anabolic signal. So welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Mike. It's amazing that the lactate has gotten such a bad rap. We've known about it for over 200 years is when they first discovered it, but for so many years it was thought to be the villain, the thing that created fatigue and delayed onset muscle soreness. We talked about massaging it to get the lactate and the lactic acid out. But it's just been over the last 40 years that they've really come to see that just how important lactate is. One of the original researchers with into lactate, George Brooks, came up with the lactate shuttle theory, and he really started to see how it's really goes throughout the whole body. In fact, it's called the chief or major myokine, which is one of those factors that helps comes from the muscle to help trigger other parts of the body. It's the major gluconeogenic precursor, meaning it's what helps us to get to convert back to glucose and glycogen for future energy. It's the major energy source for the brain and the heart, especially while we're exercising. And I think that the most important thing is and fascinating thing for me is just how it's that signaling molecule that you talked about, that it just as we exercise, it goes throughout the body, triggering different areas. And especially what I've found fascinating is its role in the brain in increasing brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF. In fact, there was a biochemist, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, said that BDNF is the youth elixir for the brain, and exercising muscles produce lactate to help you bathe your brain in it. And so as I think about that and some of these other factors, I really see BFR as a clinician, as an opportunity, not just for what I do in the clinic, and I've been using it in the clinic for 4 years now, helping patients. I've seen great results with rotator cuff repairs, helping people to hold off on total knee replacements, or after they've had a total knee replacement, helping them get back. But I think that really what we have is an opportunity to help people change their health trajectory, to turn back the clock, to bring in this youth elixir. If you think about most of the challenges that our patients face, and I tend to work in general outpatient orthopedics, so a lot of my patients are 40 up into their 90s, and so many of them are struggling with things, cardiac issues, heart health, bone loss, joint problems, and just brain challenges. And I think that we're especially positioned as clinicians to be able to introduce them to this, to see how it impacts them both in the rehab setting, but also as an opportunity to be able to continue to use these systems later on.
Scott, one of the challenges, that our professionals face, right, is they get it, the burn, right? We know how to create it. But getting the burn and getting enough circulating lactate in somebody who's injured or is going through therapy, I mean, I'm not going to say that's impossible, but people who are coming into physical therapy or health and fitness pros that are dealing with people like a shoulder problem or a knee problem, they're not going to be able to load these people and turn on the anabolic signal, are they? And that's one of the reasons, BFR is so powerful. What have you seen in that respect?
I've seen what I've really liked is especially in the early stages of rehab when we can't load the tissue after a surgery, to be able to put the cuffs on other muscles, have them experience that burn, get that lactate flowing, and knowing that it goes systemically, that it's going to influence the growth hormone, the nitric oxide, and being able to maintain that muscle and diminish the atrophy that sometimes that takes place.
And that's one of the things we're going to teach our professionals. Something that's very unique that we've developed thanks to our team is, Scott mentioned, we can work non-injured body parts to turn on the anabolic signal. Now, Scott, once the person is out of the acute phase, right, now we can start rehabbing the tissue we're dealing with, whether it's a surgery or a replacement. How have you been able to implement BFR and turn the anabolic signal on when you're working the tissue that's been repaired or injured?
Sure. It's, because we're able to use lighter weights, we have less risk of re-injuring that tissue. So we're able to put the cuffs on, have them start to feel the burn in those muscles, and create protein synthesis for up to 3 hours after that bout of exercise.
So we're turning on the anabolic signal early in people that have no anabolic signal, right? Because they've had surgery. That's a game changer. Then once we start implementing muscle contraction and rehab of the joint or tissue, we're able to get the fatigue they normally couldn't get. Now, once they've started to return to normal activities, how have you been able to use BFR there?
Basically, with whatever they enjoy doing, we're able to put them on those muscles and start to exercise them in a way that will help get into more functional movement patterns and things like that with people, so that they can strengthen in those functional movements.
Yeah, Scott, so obviously you're using BFR at all different levels. Two questions. One, right, BFR can seem like it's a daunting thing to try and implement. What have you seen, because you've brought other professionals to B3, how hard is this to implement, and what has BFR done to help these people you've brought on and yourself to be able to implement it?
With my patients, it's very easy to implement. I mean, I basically explain to them the benefits that they're going to see from them, why I'm putting them on them. I also explain and tell them that for the last 4 years, this is the only way I've been exercising. I exercise 10 to 15 minutes a day, doing 3 or 4 strength training exercises. And then, sometimes I'll also maybe add in 4 minutes of cardio. And I've had a lot of people not only, and once they experience them, a lot of them are asking, how do they get their own?
Yes, exactly. What do you think across the board, Scott, what do you think the improvement or the speed, the faster healing and the better function, if you were to give it a percentage, since you've added this to your toolbox of physical therapy, what impact do you think this has had on?
In many cases, it can be in half the time. In some cases, I had a woman in her 40s in her 50s who had a fracture, her bone was completely healed, couldn't even see the fracture line after 5 weeks.
So you see that across the board on just about everybody. And what percentage of people are you putting BFR on that come into your clinic?
If I am doing therapeutic exercise with somebody, which is the vast majority of the patients that I see, I'm probably putting it on 90%.
Awesome. And where do you see this thing going, Scott? For the physical therapists out there that are watching this and haven't quite yet been able to, get BFR implemented, but they've heard about it, where do you see this going, and what would you encourage physical therapists like yourself to do?
Well, it's getting bigger and bigger all the time, and we're hearing about it from all kinds of different areas. And I think that is one of the things that I want to point out about just the importance of really understanding the different types of BFR systems. I mean, the thing about the system that we use, it's based on 50 years of research out of Japan, and then the Dr. 𝐉𝐨𝐬𝐧 who created these cuffs took all that understanding and then came at these cuffs with the desire to build a cuff that was cost effective, that was user friendly, so that it's safe. I mean, there's a lot of different cuffs out there. You'll see in all the research they're using wide, rigid, and narrow elastic like we have, and they're effective in many of those cases. But the challenge comes down to is the safety. And what I like about the B3 BFR cuffs is that I know that if a patient wants to then get their own to change their health trajectory, I know that these cuffs are safe up to the full pump of the cuffs, that they don't need to have something that is going to figure out how to not cut off their arterial flow. Our cuffs are designed not to cut that off, which is what leads to the major risk factors with these. I know that if someone has hypertension, a lot of those other cuffs, it's contraindicated, and so many people are dealing with blood pressure issues. I like the fact that they can use the narrow elastic B3 BFR cuffs and be safe.
Scott, thanks for sharing. I know we've got a lot of health professionals on that are going to look forward to seeing more of what you're doing and the other professionals. And as always, we appreciate you leading the way out there in the physical therapy world. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's move into the anabolic effect on performance. We commonly hear about BFR in rehab and therapy. That's a no-brainer. We're starting to hear about it for general exercise. But there's a unique side of BFR that is growing fast, and I can tell you, I doubt anybody in the BFR world is at the level of B3 sciences because of people like Dr. Ken Otto, and he's going to share with you how this anabolic effect can dramatically improve performance like speed, jumping, endurance, golf, pickleball. I want to introduce to you Dr. Ken Otto. Let me find him here so we can get him unmuted. He's here somewhere. There he is up there.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Mike.
Dr. Ken, welcome. And Dr. Ken has really gravitated in an area he's passionate about. Not only does he treat athletes, but now he's been able to implement BFR in athletes at all levels. And he's going to share with you how you as a professional, whether you're a health or fitness pro, can dramatically improve your clients' sports performance with BFR. Dr. Ken, welcome.
Thank you so much. As I'm listening here tonight, I am reminded of my initial skepticism about all of this. And I still hear, yeah, I do 4 minutes of cardio. And it's still, even after, a few years, it's mind blowing, right? You're like, the new people, they're like, what are these people talking about? So I went from skeptic to certified. Okay. So there's a progression of understanding. So hang in there for the new people. And some of you have heard some of these stories. I hope to maybe add a few that you haven't heard. My take on BFR and specifically B3, if you have athletes or are an athlete, see teams or have contact with teams, unless they're using BFR, they're leaving potential athleticism untapped. It'll never come to the light of day unless many of these people are using BFR. Quite simply because of the depth of fatigue that we're able to achieve with the blood flow restriction, with less load and less time. We're in and out, having a wonderful impact. And these athletes, I don't care what they do. If they want to get stronger, do BFR. You want to get faster, get yourself into fast twitch, do BFR. if you're a swimmer, a cyclist, I've got volleyball players, basketball players. Then if you take it even a bit wider scope, we're kind of all athletes getting through our day. I mean, I apply that same thinking to my patients that to some degree, they're athletes too. They just have different events. You know, some of my elderly people, it's activities of daily living. You know, they're gold medalists in that. And to place this on those folks and see athletic improvement, at least functional improvement, is wonderful. I just spoke on Friday with the head trainer over at a local high school here. They have their volleyball team. They specifically measured their girls. The first year they bought 15 sets of bands or whatever they have. And since then, now they fill in every year if they've got different size needs. But they asked me, Doc, how do we get the most out of these bands? And they're actually doing a wonderful job. But it brings the point to, if you have athletes, you can use BFR for performance, but you can use it as a warm-up. It could be as little as 30 seconds or 2 minutes as a warm-up. And by getting that nitric oxide in the system, open up capillary beds, thin the blood. When they go for that event, they're going to be ready. Obviously, the gains that we talked about with just general performance, but also the recovery. That was mentioned. I think Scott talked about that too, that being able to recover faster, better after their event, whatever that may be. There's huge gains in being able to recover faster. I have a swimmer at the local high school. So you want to hear performance side? She took 5 seconds off. I think she's a 500 meter swimmer. She took 5 seconds off her personal best time mid-season. She's the only one on her swim team doing BFR. The coach was nutso. Ultimately, the amount of volume that this team did was to their demise, but she was the only girl on the team that wasn't sore. And they're like, what are you doing? You're not sore. We do 3-day swim practices. How are you not sore? Well, I do this BFR, and it was a substantial benefit for her. My other story, I have a cyclist, just different ages. So I gave you some high school kids. I'm going to circle back quick with the volleyball strength coach. They've been tracking every 2 weeks. He does some testing with his volleyball girls. And through the course of the season, typically you'll hear in the app, you'll hear the head trainer, Burkholder from the Kansas City Chiefs, that it doesn't matter the sport, but nobody's ever at their better than their first day of camp, whatever it may be. And then there's a slow decline, unless you insert BFR. The trainer was doing testing every 2 weeks on his girls to kind of know if they were overtraining or not. And he actually found a slight increase as the season went on. Obviously, high schoolers, they're growing and whatnot, but what an advantage that is for this team, because all the other teams not using BFR, we know they're declining, and they have really successful team. And the advantage in being fresh at the end of the season during playoff time versus the other teams is a huge advantage, huge, massive advantage. It's probably underutilized and underemphasized, but that's a massive advantage. I have another basketball coach. His team also uses them. He found very similar things. He says his kids typically about mid-season, they have to start peeling back the volume of what they do because they just fatigue so much faster and they don't want injury. They've never been healthier at the end of the season. They just keep pouring on the gas as the year goes on. So massive advantage by just getting kids in the bands doing some workouts. There's nothing special about the workouts. You can certainly reach out. I can help you with that if you need. Dr. Mike knows all the things. It's really just getting the burn, getting the lactate rolling. Like as Scott so eloquently said, like just get the lactate and away we go.
Dr. Ken, I was with you up there in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I actually saw what you implemented with a facility called DBATS.
Oh, sure.
And think about this, everyone. these young athletes come into a baseball facility, right? So they've got a format, they got a program. You know, Dr. Ken very seamlessly was able to, and he'll tell you the story, but they got the bands on these kids during the time they were in the facility. So no additional time. And in a short amount of time, he's turning on an anabolic signal. And then tell them a little bit about the results, Dr. Ken, of what these kids have seen, you know, both male and female, and exit velocity off the bat.
They have some kind of device where they can measure the speed of the ball off the bat. And so these are middle school, high school kids. They're gaining between 8 and 10 miles an hour of velocity off the bat. And I asked a rhetorical question to a different coach, baseball coach. I said, would it be an advantage for your kids to have more velocity of the ball off the bat, like 8 to 10 miles an hour? Is that a big deal? And he went off for 10 minutes telling me why that was such a big deal. And I'm like, well, if you're interested, we can help you with this BFR idea and train your kids. So they're actually in the process of working with us to get their team up and running with it. But they had other metrics. I have a girl that she signed a D2 softball scholarship. She's been doing BFR in our office for 2 months, and she's never been known for her power. She's kind of a slate gal, but she's been hitting more home runs, and she's faster. Her the speed of just her throw has improved. We're still looking to get her on a gun to find out how much it's improved. But all the metrics shift with BFR. It doesn't matter what metric you measure, it's going to shift.
Dr. Ken, so, you know, in summary, in talking about anabolics, you went back to the beginning and said these athletes are leaving something on the table. How is this possible? What physically what do you believe is happening in their body that's not happening with traditional training that's taken them to these new levels?
I think it's the depth of fatigue. I think it's the muscle recruitment, depth of fatigue. I think specifically with BFR, the compliance is so high because it is soft and elastic. It's comfortable to wear. It's super easy. I mean, I've had people that didn't really know what they were doing. If we can get them on and get them to a burn, it doesn't matter if they were vacuuming. They're going to improve their athletic performance. So what they're doing is less important than just getting the burn. So I know there's a lot of science here, but it's really simple. If you just keep it simple, depth of fatigue, muscle recruitment, I think is the key personally.
Right. It's like we're taking these high school athletes. I remember when I trained my son for speed, and it's like they go from training like a middle or high school, almost like an Olympic athlete. They're hitting fatigues that amateur athletes can't achieve by themselves, number one. But number two, what's shocking is they're doing it so easy and with less load that you would think the recovery would be twice as long, but the recovery is dramatically faster. So we're turning on anabolic signals in amateur athletes that they can't get without the bands. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
And real quick, Dr. Ken, you do this on normal people in your practice, right? You see all kinds of different people.
Yep.
What if your general, you call them athletes, but what if some of your people that just don't normally exercise, what have they seen once they've just started implementing 5 to 10 minutes of light, easy exercise a day with the bands?
Well, if somebody can get rid of their walker because they have enough strength to move around their house, that's a big deal. Instead of going 2 separate days to go grocery shopping, they can get it all done in one day. That's a big deal to them.
Yes.
If they can, they're not huffing and puffing and working, they have more VO2 max technically, but they're able to do the stairs in their house, whether that's just doing laundry or whatever, without as much duress. That's a big deal.
Yes. What would you suggest to all the chiros out there, Dr. Ken? Obviously, us being chiros, we've had a great response with helping our fellow chiropractors. But for chiropractors who are just hearing about BFR, what would your advice to them be?
Well, I think it's important to know, first of all, you don't need to be, I mean, I don't do, I have a couple people that I train because and that's my choice. My practice by and large, I don't do rehab. And there's nothing wrong with it. I just choose not to. I spend my other energy in other ways. But people, the common question they ask me is, what exercises can I do to help with the adjustment? What can I do? What should I do? I'm telling you what, for 30 years in practice, I didn't have an answer because it was so all over the board. It would take forever to answer those questions. Now it's very simple. I would do BFR. Well, what's that? Well, I'm having a class in my office. I have 1 or 2 a month. What do I recommend? Get certified, get the slide presentation. You can pull out 8 to 10 slides, do a 20-minute presentation, do demos afterwards. I mean, bands fly out of here all the time. And then they are going to be responsible. People like to do something that they can own and be responsible for themselves. It's empowering, which is very congruent with the way I practice. So that's what I'd recommend.
Thanks,
if you
Dr.
want
Kim.
to implement it in rehab, you can, but you don't need to.
Exactly. Yes, and that's a common belief. Everyone is BFR. How am I going to implement this? With B3 Sciences, we make it seamless to help you get started, help you get trained. We even have a BFR certification, and we have a big group of health professionals to give you great suggestions and ideas. Dr. Ken, thanks for being one of our leaders that's leading the way, and appreciate you being on. Thank you. Okay, let's now move on to tendons. As professionals, we see a lot of tendon problems. And one of the biggest things we need to do is strengthen tendons. We all know that. Here's the challenge. When a tendon has a mechanical tear or a breakdown of the tendon, we have to be careful. We can't load. So we get these people that are kind of caught in a catch-22. They've got a tendon injury, but we can't mechanically stimulate it because we might injure it. Number 2, one of the major factors affecting tendonitis is blood flow. Studies have shown that BFR increases blood flow into tendons. What do we do as health professionals? We stretch, we therapy, we trigger point, we Theragun. All these techniques we're doing for tendons is aimed at restoring function, but more importantly, restoring blood flow. Well, BFR has been a dramatic change in how we can do that, along with growth hormone. I want to bring on Dr. 𝐬𝐵 𝗕𝟯 Let me find Dr. Carl here. Here he is. Dr. Carl is not only a practicing physician, but he'll also tell you personally, he's gone from having tendon problems to now being able to compete at a level like he was 20 years younger. And then he's gone on to implement BFR for a lot of his clients that have tendon injuries, and now he's also a certified instructor. I know Dr. Lindsay just recently met him when he was teaching. Dr. Carl, welcome to tonight's presentation, and I know everybody's excited to hear from you on what you're finding with tendons.
Well, thank you, Mike. I do appreciate this particular topic on the anabolic effects. Scott and Ken were both talking about some pretty impressive stuff. I would definitely agree that utilizing BFR almost 100% of the time is really the safest and best way to train and protect yourself and also heal from injury. And that's why I like the anabolic effect, because for me personally, with my baseball and such, it has given me the opportunity at 50 years old to compete with 30-year-olds. And I would say at a higher level than most of them. And it's all because I know how to recover. And as the season goes on, while they, become damaged and weakened and injured, I get stronger and stronger. So as the season goes on, I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm playing tournament ball. I'm playing on 30-year-old team, a 50-year-old team. I've got, I think, 6 playoff games in the next 10 days. It's ridiculous, but I'm able to do it because the recovery of what BFR does. And what we see in practice, obviously there's tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, patellar tendonitis, but what I'm going to focus on is really shoulders. For me as a baseball player, you see my background is Dodger Stadium. Grew up in LA. At 8 years old, I'm playing baseball, and I pitched with pain. I mean, I would walk the bases loaded because it just hurt. It hurt. And it would take, 3 batters to warm up. It would still hurt, but I'd power through it. And finally, about 3 years ago, when I started doing BFR, is the first time in my life that I've ever pitched without pain. And I can now pitch 100, 120 pitches, and my arm feels great the next day. And so the way I implement it, one is that in the off season, if you're ever going to do heavy weights, do it in the off season. Don't have any of your athletes, lifting heavy during the season. It's just going to break you down. There are specific exercises, and there are specific ones I will not do during the season. But the BFR band workouts are 100% of my workouts during the season. And what I'll do is basically the night before a game, sometimes the day of, and absolutely that night, the night after I play or the next day, I'm doing a BFR workout. And whether it's specific to the tendon or not, I'm seeing unbelievable results. My soreness that was in the back of my shoulder, which you'll primarily see with, say, tennis players, baseball players, anything where you have that strong overhead activity, that back of the shoulder tendonitis that I used to have, it's gone. Any kind of soreness, tightness, it's gone. And I just feel like you have to get the athletes on the bands, and you have to use it not only for prevention, but it is more prevention. Even though you're doing it after the fact, you're preventing it from breaking down and inflaming and getting weakened, where you're actually strengthening and bringing more blood flow, more nutrient flow, and more growth hormone to heal any kind of damage that happens, from whatever sport you're doing. Speaking more specifically in how I get frustrated, I look at the Dodgers, right? I mean, they're my team. But you got, 325 mil to Yamamoto, and he's down with shoulder fatigue, right? Kershaw, shoulder fatigue, back issues. You have a lot of my team down. Garrett Cole, one of the best pitchers in the game, was down for several weeks in the season. You're seeing elbow tendonitis, you're seeing shoulder tendonitis, and I just wonder what you would see if these guys were using BFR religiously, after they played, during they played, and especially in this preseason, going out and, we learn no more than 50% of what you normally work out with, no more than 70%, intensity. So I use these before the season. You saw, the picture up there of me hitting off a tee. That is a live video feed, where I was swinging at 70%, just a still shot of it. But I'm swinging 70% off a tee using all 4 bands, and that's how I gear up for the season and don't have injury. If I'm pitching off a mound, I pitch in the bands, and that's predominantly what I do before I get into the season. When I'm in the season, now I'm using it for recovery. But prehab before the season, recovery during the season, and it's prolonged my career. It's made me feel better than ever. And guys on the field are just like, how are you getting better? How are you throwing harder than you were last year? And I'm now throwing the hardest I've ever thrown. I'm hitting with the most power I've ever hit with. And it is absolutely due to my new routine and the cheat code, as I call it, from using BFR.
Yeah. Dr. Carl, so let's take a quick review for everybody on the call without diving real deep. Tendons, they get micro tearing. Okay. We all experience that. Some of us experience it as young as being in middle school and pitching all the way up to our middle ages. Here's the challenge. We know, Dr. Carl, these tendons don't have good blood supply. So number one, we've got a tear or micro tearing. Don't think of a tear, everyone. Think of like fibers on a rope. You pull the rope to our little fibers start breaking off. The problem is we've got lack of blood flow. And number two, there isn't a strong hormonal effect that stimulates this. So like you've experienced, Dr. Carl, and most of us who are professionals who deal with people with these chronic tendinitises, What's the difference? Why all of a sudden does doing BFR, talk to them about how all of a sudden improved blood flow and faster healing with growth hormone is making this big difference?
So I think it's I don't know, a fairly simple concept to think about. And again, I think it has to do with the breakdown because of the lack of blood flow in your tendons, ligaments, and so forth. And utilizing BFR and lighter weight, you're not breaking down and creating that inflammation, like you said. So if you're creating more nitric oxide and growth hormone, your blood flow is improved, right? You're going to heal everything in the body faster. And then on top of that, right, if you go specifically, say, at the shoulder, I'm able to work my muscles, work my tendons without the inflammation of the heavy weights like before.
Yep. And what have you seen on clients that you've introduced the bands to, Dr. Carl? You seen similar stuff?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of pickleball, tennis players, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, some shoulder issues, some knee issues, and just a lot of stuff. So as we get them on bands within just a few weeks, they're starting to see the effects of the growth hormone, the nitric oxide, the anti-inflammatory effect, the pain-killing effect, and the strengthening effects. And their arms are coming back faster. And I'm talking about, 60, 70-year-olds, and then some of them are, 40s, 50s. But at every kind of walk of life, every age, regardless if they're playing competitively or just, recreation leagues. So it's just an amazing, amazing thing to see people get back on track within weeks rather than months of downtime. And hey, let's put you on the injured list for 60 days while you wait for the inflammation to drop. Now we're able to do it, almost on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. So Dr. Carl, by the way, has a shoulder video that all the health and fitness pros that are on the call can access. I've also done a shoulder rehab video. Dr. Carl, what would you recommend for the people on the call? There's a lot of pros on the call, health and fitness, that see these injuries, that see tendonitis in all muscles of the body. What would you recommend to them?
I really think that any injury, and whether it's back, tendon, ligament, bone, really anything, you can get people on these workout plans immediately. Even if they can't lift heavy, you can now do body weight exercises. I would certainly say any athletes have to be using this. I think Ken was talking about it. You're talking about, I think of it as doping. I think anabolically, right? How are you creating the advantage, right? So if you have a healthy athlete, you're creating stronger athletes, faster athletes without breaking them down. And if you have an injured person, whether it be a neuropathy patient or really anything to that matter, you're allowing them the opportunity to speed up blood flow, nitric oxide, growth hormone, everything else that goes with that, and to heal faster, regardless of any other therapies you use. They should be on BFR.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Carl. Appreciate that. For everybody on the call, we'll talk about at the end how you can access some of the things that Dr. Ken has done, some of the research that Scott has found on lactate, Dr. Carl's shoulder video. We're going to make all that stuff accessible. Dr. Carl, thanks for being on the call.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to now weight training, right? We all know that if we lift heavy weights, we create lactic acid. Growth hormones are released, elevated IGF-1, elevated testosterone. Muscle grows bigger, muscle grows stronger. This is traditional weight training. But as professionals, we know there's many challenges, right? There's time limitations with our clients. Many of our clients, especially in their middle ages, they can't tolerate heavy weights. And quite simply, a lot of them don't want to deal with the loads and the soreness that comes with it. That's why BFR has been such an incredible implementation. Let's review. We can put BFR on our clients, on our patients, reduce those loads by more than half. Janine Grohl is going to come on and talk about this. And normally, if we reduce these loads and we go light weights, we're not going to feel any burn. We're not going to access fast twitch muscles. So hence, we've got to use heavy weights. Not anymore. BFR is a fascinating change, and I believe we're 5 to 10 years away from when heavy weights are going to be a thing of the past. Look at a couple of these studies. This is a study out of Japan. Light weights were compared to heavy weights. They saw muscle size changes in 2 weeks with light weights and BFR that typically takes 3 to 4 months with heavy weights. Fascinating. Here's a study out of Japan. They measured people doing heavy weights and light weights. Both groups saw the same improvement in strength. And with close to 50,000 people now, and with what Janine and Chris have seen in their gym business, we're starting to see that this is not only an alternative, but this is the new way to train. And we don't have to lift heavy weights anymore to get the results. So I want to bring on Janine Grohl. Janine's not only got an awesome personal story, but she's been a health pro she'll share with you. They own a gym, so they've seen thousands of people. And she's got a great perspective, especially for our fitness pros, because one of the challenges, right, is, okay, how am I going to implement this? Is this going to be hard? How am I going to get this on my clients? Am I still going to be able to train them for this amount of time? And Janine's going to share with you how you can do that and what kind of results you can see. So Janine, thanks for being on the call tonight. And I know you've got Chris with you, who's also, a fitness professional, and your husband. So thanks for both of you to being on.
Thanks, Dr. Mike, for having us on. And I want to thank the other speakers. I've learned a lot. I've taken little notes. I learn every single time I get on this something. And yeah, we've been in the fitness industry for quite a long time, probably over 23 years running gyms and personal training, and just for others and for ourselves. But as far as using BFR training, I've been using it for myself. My husband and I are using them in our own gyms for ourselves for over 5 years, and also in the gym and outside the gym in my training. So doing some endurance training with them. So it's been a lot of trial and error, practicing, learning from Dr. Mike on what works best, and how to implement it. And we have found different ways. I know, like, I have other trainers and stuff on the call here, and like Larry that's used them in his practice, finding things that have worked and how amazing it has been for us in the personal training and in the fitness industry. I know going to IDEA, we just got back from IDEA this last month, which is the World Fitness Conference, and I've been going to that for over, 10, 15 years now. And definitely the best thing that has come out. They always show the new research, the latest and greatest. And for me, BFR has definitely been the best tool that has come out for us in the fitness industry. And so I love it myself, and I've shared it with my family, who are very athletic, and friends and clients. And so it's helped us in many different ways. But yeah, the challenge is getting it into the fitness industry, because you've got a lot of the old school that want to lift heavy and don't want to change their ways and do the same thing. And sometimes it takes an event or something to get them to change. Maybe they have had an injury, or they can't lift as heavy, they're getting sore and things like that. So this has always been the answer. And as people come to us with questions or concerns, I feel like, just like Dr. Otto said, this is the answer that we have. We finally have an answer now for them. We're like, okay, BFR will fix you. And so it's been something really wonderful for us to be able to have an answer for them. And it doesn't, like, everybody doesn't accept it. I thought everybody in the gym would want to do it, and it hasn't been the case. We have quite a few people that are using it, and I use it solely in personal training. I don't train people any other way. I tell them I train with BFR because it works better. We get better results, shorter amount of time, and charge the same amount. Even if our training sessions is a 30-minute session, you can still charge as much or if not more, because you're getting them better results, and they'll be able to see that and feel that themselves. So, and some people I train virtually, and this is a great way to train people virtually, because they can get the bands themselves. You can share some workouts with them, videos, whatever, and utilize them. And in our training, you can use them in so many variety of ways. It's also been really nice. I know Coach Easton has a lot of different programs that they use. A lot of our clients are weight loss. They want to lose weight, tone up, that kind of thing, a lot of the people that I coach. So I can use the lose weight protocol, which is kind of an upper body one day, lower body another day, cardio core, upper, lower cardio core. But if you're training somebody that just is coming and they just want to train 3 days a week, you know, and you can do an upper body one day, lower body one day, and maybe a full body. I do clients like that. And it just is nice to be able to say and lead them through a workout without, and being able to tell them, you're not going to be sore the next day. I used to always be like so sore, like you guys were talking about, you know, like you did a good workout if you were sore the next day. That's how you could tell. And now that's changed. Like I'm never sore. I can go to a deep burn with my BFR bands and I'm not sore the next day. I can go do a race. I like to do triathlons or biking or swimming. I can do any of those and I'm not sore the next day. And so it's really, really nice to do that, especially with clients. So a training session might look like this. I mean, I might do a 3 to 5 minute warm up with them. Put the bands in, do a good 10 to 15 minute burn, depending on what type, you know, 3 or 4 muscle groups, and then take them off and just do a cool down stretch with them. And that's it. And they, at first you'll find that some people are pretty skeptical, except after they've tried it, then they become believers and start seeing the results. So we've loved them. We've loved using them. Happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to start implementing it in their personal training, or even in group. Like Dr. Mike said, we've had people using them in group fitness, also small group fitness, BFR training. This has gone well over in St. George at the Hive Therapy. They have small group fitness classes with BFR. And those are popular. Ours has not been as popular, but we have more people that use them in the group fitness classes. So you can use them in so many different aspects in the gym, outside the gym.
So Janine, from a personal training standpoint, I know one of the things you do is you offer them a free, you know, you don't charge them to put the bands on. So I know one of the easy things you can do with your clients is say, hey, we're going to use a new technology on your workout called BFR. And then you just share with them a couple bullet points about how they can work out with less weight, but get a bigger growth hormone release. So the way to get them started or implement them is just to offer them what you would call a free workout. They're still going to pay for the training session, but you're going to bring in the new technology without. What's the typical response when somebody puts them on the first time in your gym or they're doing personal training?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's just such a shocker. It was for me too. I mean, the first time I heard about him from Dr. Gunderson and his personal trainers, and they put him on my arms and gave me 5-pound weights and told me to do some bicep curls. And I was very skeptical. I mean, I was like, you know, 5 pounds, give me at least 10 or 15 because I lift more weights than that. And when I felt burn and the fatigue, my answer is, wow. I was like, oh my goodness, how does this happen? So I think that is the biggest thing. And Dr. Mike, I think you hit on a key point is like you want to give them a quick little demo with them, but also find out what their problem is, you know. So usually we'll sit down with them and find out, you know, what are some of their concerns, what are some of their health issues, and what are some of their goals. And we try to find what's going to solve that problem and do a little demo with them and say, hey, what if, you know, you've got this shoulder injury? What if we could do some real light weights below the shoulder and help you heal that shoulder up quicker, you know, and just do a quick little demo with it. And then they're sold, you know, then they want to be able to rehab or lose weight or whatever their issue or their problem is. If we can find that problem and show them that we've got a solution, then we've got a fight.
And I know the next thing, right, is equipment, Janine, right? As a gym owner, I know you have bands and they can use them in their training sessions with you. And maybe the training session is shorter and you charge the same fee, or you could upcharge them a small fee to use your bands. And I know you also offer them the ability to purchase their own bands so they can use it with you and on their own. So they've got multiple ways you can get them started in the bands, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, multiple ways. They can even rent them for 30 days if they want to.
Yep. So it's a good way to get them started. And what would you say the results are compared to somebody who would do personal training, without the bands and somebody to train with the bands. And I know, Janine, you now tell people, look, if I'm training you, we're doing BFR. So I kind of know, what you think about that. But what have you seen? You've been doing this long enough. What's a person doing BFR going to see different compared to maybe somebody who's not doing it, that's being trained by a personal trainer?
Well, I would say they're probably gaining more lean muscle mass than when they're not doing their BFR training. They're not having injury issues. We've seen that, of course, with the BFR versus the non-BFR, where you need to be a lot more careful, when you're training somebody, especially if you're utilizing heavier weights. And I just feel like they get so much better results in a shorter amount of time. So you might have to train somebody for 12 weeks to get the results that you can help them get in like 3 or 4 weeks. So you still can sell them. We still sell them a 12-week package.
Yes.
And we still keep training them, and help them continue to get the results that they want. But we can honestly get them if they weren't doing BFR training, it would definitely take the full 12 weeks to kind of help grow the lean muscle and help them on their journey. Maybe not reach their goal, but just, get on their journey.
Any stories come to mind? If you got a story, I know, as professionals, we see a lot of people who literally, there's no way they're going to get the burn without it, right? They're disabled, they're overweight, they've got neuropathy, they've got diabetes, right? These people, BFR is really their only option, but you've had some amazing stories. Any of them come to the top of your mind that you can share?
Well, one I do think that comes to the top of my mind is a cancer patient I was working with, and she just had been through a lot of chemo and was pretty weak, and she didn't think there was anything that she could do. There was nothing, she told me, that she could do at her gym. And so I just put the bands on her and said, well, let's try this, let's see if we can build up your strength as you're kind of going through these chemo sessions. And I had another friend that actually managed a gym in Tennessee that tried this as he was going through his chemo. And he was able to keep running and lifting through his chemo treatments, which before he hadn't been able to do. And so we started doing that with her. And it was amazing as I was working with her to see her be able to continue to keep her strength as she was going through cancer. And I think this was a little more closer to my heart because my mom had cancer and she also lost a lot of muscle, and the bands have really helped her with regaining her strength. And I can't remember who said it, but the ADLs, so the gold Olympic of ADLs, I love that because you just want them to keep going with their activities of daily living and not lose that. And it needs muscle strength for that. It needs lean muscle, and that's what they're losing as they get older.
Janine, right, you've been here for 5 years, right? So you've been seeing BFR in its infancy, and you see where it's at now. What would your advice be to a fitness professional that's looking at BFR and considering, whether or not they should add it as a tool in their toolbox? What would you say to them?
It's a no-brainer. I just think it is a no-brainer. It's like, why would you not have this in your toolbox to help your clients? This is one of the best things that we have to help our clients. It's the safest. I've talked to other fitness gyms that have other bands, and I don't understand, like, why would they use the rigid ones that are more painful and not as safe? And we have the availability of these bands right now. And, like you're saying, it's most cost-effective. Scott was saying cost-effective and user-friendly and the safest bands out there. And so it really is. It's like a no-brainer. If you're going to train somebody, then this, I feel like, is definitely one of the most effective ways to train.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Janine. Appreciate you being on, and love what you and Chris are doing with BFR, especially in the training world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's wrap it up and get to some questions. By the way, unique things to B3 Sciences. We are the only BFR company that provides free coaching. We do this by way of emailing programs, providing videos. We do live calls. So not only can your clients access, but you as a professional, anytime you want to jump on a call with me, I do live calls during the week when I'm not traveling. We get into all type of topics. Occasionally Scott will be on there, Dr. Carl, Dr. Ken. You can bounce ideas off them. So we have a massive support system that's going to help you in your BFR journey. We're the only company that provides a 30-day money-back guarantee on used bands. I was recently looking at one of the most popular rigid bands out there that you have to use a Doppler. It costs over $1,000. Now, great bands, they're getting great results, but they have a 14-day no used bands policy. That means you take them out and you put them on, you've bought them. Not at B3 Sciences. This is one of the things that you can share with your clients. You can say, I want you to try this. I want to prescribe this for you. We're going to help you. This new technology is going to help you elevate growth hormone. If for any reason you don't love the B3 bands, you simply contact the company within 30 days and send them back. They're only out of ship fee. We're the only company that does that. We even have payment plans, 0 down, 0 interest. A couple unique programs that are unique to B3. We have a very simple but effective affiliate program, just like other affiliate programs. If you're new or you know people who are health or fitness pros, when you get the B3 bands for no additional charge, you can get a free affiliate account and an affiliate link. This now allows you to share your affiliate link with your clients and your patients so that you will get the credit for their purchase. Not only will we plug them in and assist you, but you will also make a commission. So this is very popular, our affiliate program. We also have a founder program. All the people that you heard tonight, they came into the company either in the beginning or they upgraded to founder. Founder is our exclusive program for our professionals. You get multiple sets of bands. You get the BFR certification course, an online 6-hour course. You get access to an additional financial incentive program called the Founders Pool. And most importantly, you're going to get access to me and the B3 pros. And this is where I really believe where we stand out is you as a professional or even an enthusiast that's coming into B3, you're going to have access to thousands of people and data and collaboration before you. And if you're a founder, you're going to have personal access to me. And that's really where this company shines, is we are able to provide all this previous knowledge and experience and make that available to you to help you in your journey. So you're the healthiest and fittest version of yourself as a professional, but allow you to be able to seamlessly implement this into your practice. Again, we got that certification course. We now have over 400 BFR certified courses. If you're a health professional, I want to encourage you, this is one of the most important things you can do is take our online BFR course. To learn more about these things, take a snapshot real quick, get your phone out, snapshot it, screenshot it. This is how you get a hold of us. Support at b3sciences.com. Any of your account needs you want to order, hey, how do I get my affiliate link? I want to learn about the founder program. Want to access our programs like the basketball program, Dr. Carl's shoulder program. You want to see Dr. Ken's basketball study that he did, some of Janine's workouts, Dr. Carl's shoulder workout. Email coach at b3sciences.com. High-level questions. You've got some health concerns. Maybe you're dealing with an elite level athlete or a coach or a team. If you're a member of our company, especially a founder, you can email me at drmike@b3sciences.com. We are here to assist you.